Well, commissioners, it's good to see you all. And happy September 21st. And just a few months of shopping left till Christmas, I'm sure. Was in Lowe's this week and saw they had Christmas stuff up already. Unbelievable. Well, it's good to be with you, my friends. It's good to have everybody here today, and hopefully soon we'll be meeting in person. Let's get started. We'll call the meeting to order. We're going to have the invocation by our faithful chaplain, Michael Taylor. Pastor Taylor, are you with us this morning, this afternoon, this evening?
I am.
Oh, good. Well, good. Well, we're going to have our prayer brought to us by Chaplain Taylor, and then we'll have the pledge. So, commissioners, let's get started.
Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for our county commissioners so dedicated to the mission they've got before them in this county. Pray you'll give them the wisdom they need. Blessings upon them, Lord. Take care of this meeting today. And I thank you for the privilege of Rowan County, the opportunity to be in Rowan County. Please help our county commissioner this meeting today in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty
with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Chaplain Taylor. Are you well? Well, I'll take that as a yes. I hope you're doing well, and thank you for
Sir.
Thank you for the effort that you put in to be with us every meeting. We appreciate you very much. Okay.
Thank y'all.
All right, brother. Take care. All right, we've got some items to add to the agenda. We've got an item that came from Carolyn to us. It is regarding pending offer for some parcels. This comes from JD's. We'll add that as consent item O. Consent item O. Another one is we're going to add with Aaron and Randy a discussion on the CDBG grant. We'll add that as item 8A. Item 8A. And then I'd like us to discuss just our commission meetings and kind of how we feel about either continuing along this path or returning to our commissioner chambers. I'd like to just add that as 10A, if y'all don't mind. Are there any other additions or deletions, commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, was there not a request from Chris Luke?
There was. And Carolyn, help me out here.
Mr. Chairman, it was an email that was forwarded
Yep.
asking to add the item to the consent agenda. Commissioner Green and Chris Loop are on. They're both aware of it and maybe could explain a little more.
I got it, and I just didn't print that out. I intended to have that as part of our consent as well. Commissioners, did you all receive that email?
Yeah.
Craig and Mike?
I probably read it, but you need to refresh my memory. I only get about 1,000 a week.
Yeah, I understand. Why don't we just go ahead and add it we'll add it to the regular agenda. Is that okay, Jim? We'll have you and Chris bring it up. Is that okay?
Fine with me.
That's my fault. That way we can quickly talk through it. We'll add that as and let's get that up here quickly. Let's do that as 4A. 4A, okay? Thanks, Jim, for reminding me of that. All right, are there any others? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
And Craig second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and then the minutes from September 8th were provided to us. We need a motion and a second to approve the September 8th minutes.
So moved.
All right, Craig motion, Judy second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, are there any opposed? All right. And then our consent agenda as amended, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and Craig motion, Judy second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. All right, then we've got some special recognition. And this is about the most awkward thing, one of the most awkward things I've ever done, and one of the sad parts of our COVID experience that seems to be never ending. But we want to honor a couple of folks that are with us. Yeah, I got to go down here on the screen and see. I saw there's Donna. Let's see. Could we highlight Donna on our screen? How do we do that?
Here she is. Madam Director.
Hello,
Oh, there she is. Well, hello. How are you today?
I'm well, overwhelmed, but doing well, thank
Good.
you.
You look well. So thank you for being with us, and we wish we could be with you in person so that the county knows. Ms. Faco has she is moving on from Rowan County and moving to the coast, which I'm very jealous of the coast. I wouldn't want to leave Rowan County. I'd like to bring the ocean here, though. But she's got a wonderful opportunity, and that opportunity has come to her because of the excellent job she has done here. And for that, we celebrate with you, and we're happy for you. And I want to talk to Rowan County citizens a little bit about Donna. Donna graduated from Pfeiffer University with a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and a Bachelor of Arts in Probation and Parole. I won't say the year, but it was in the 2000s, right? She graduated summa cum laude and she was a recipient of Academic Excellence Award and Outstanding Psychology Student Award. She came to Rowan County 8 years ago from Mecklenburg County when she had worked there for 24 years, last serving as the Deputy Director of the Youth and Family Services Division. She oversaw the entire continuum of child welfare services and 400 plus staff. Overall, Donna has served within the health and human services system for 32 years. And so some of the highlights from her career in Rowan County, she's been responsible for directing 218 staff here in Rowan County in Medicaid, food and nutrition service, Work First, subsidized childcare, child support, adult and child protective services, foster care, adoptions, and adult guardianships. She's prepared and managed a county budget of $22 million with a total budget of $175 million. She led the change management in an effort to implement the NC FAST, which is an automated system for economic services and child welfare. She engaged initiative with Duke Endowment, benchmarks, and Cardinal Innovations to create a trauma-informed continuum of care for families involved in the child welfare system. She chaired the Community Child Protection and Fatality Prevention Team. She served as guardian of persons for 68 adult wards. She implemented multidisciplinary team staffing process for adult services. She served on the boards of Smart Start, United Way, Community Care of Southern Piedmont, Rowan One Church, One Child, Rowan Transit, Innovative Approaches, Healthy Rowan, and Regional Health Council for Cardinal Innovations. She's the immediate past president of the North Carolina Association for County Directors of Social Services. She implemented Partnering for Excellence Child Welfare Trauma Initiative in 2014, seeking certification as evidence-based practice in 2020. NCAC DSS Best Practice Award for Profiles and Community Collaboration in 2013. NCAC DSS Tri-Chair for Child Services Committee 2012 through 2015. Developed a leadership academy for DSS supervisors and managers. And the governor appointed her to the North Carolina Child Fatality Task Force in 2014. As Donna moves away from us, but on to another challenge, she says she's excited about the opportunity to work within the context of both social services and public health to address some of the challenging issues facing our society. Of special interest are adverse childhood experiences, domestic violence, and substance use that plague our children and families. And so, as odd as it is, I'd like to, let me see what I can do here. There we go. I've got a plaque that I'd like to virtually present to Donna, and that we'll get to her tomorrow. It says, this is presented to Donna Faco in recognition and gratitude for over 8 years of leadership and exemplary service to the citizens and employees of Rowan County as Social Services Director from May 1st, 2012 to October 1st, 2020. And this is from the Rowan County Board of Commissioners, this 21st day of September, 2020. I'd like to virtually shake your hand and virtually present this to you. Donna, we appreciate you. I just want to say publicly that Donna has been the epitome of professionalism with us. I've had opportunity to talk with her a lot. Every time I've called her, I've been able to get through, and she's been really responsive and very kind to folks like us who don't work in that realm. And so she's been very patient to help us understand her job and the challenge that she has. And so it's a bittersweet time. It's bitter because you're moving on from Rowan County. It's sweet because I know you'll be near some family, as we discussed, and you have a really great opportunity. And for that, we're grateful. And while we're sad, we're also happy for you. And we look forward to hearing some great things about how things are going for you. So thank you for your time, your commitment, and for making us proud in your job. So.
Thank you. It's been my honor and privilege to serve the citizens of Rowan County and to work with the great staff at Rowan County DSS. And I appreciate the support from the commissioners, the county manager, and the DSS board and all the directors. Thank you to everyone.
Well, thank you. And don't be a stranger. And please let us know your number in Wilmington so we can come down and stay at the Ocean cheap. Okay.
Very good.
All right. Thank you, Donna. And good luck to you and God bless. Okay. All right. Now, April, if you would get Leslie Heydrich for us. Is Leslie on here?
She is. I've asked her to do video for us.
There she is. Well, Leslie, welcome. You've been here before, I know. Leslie wanted to tell us that this was just a bad dream and that she's not retiring. Yeah, she's just laughing at us now. All right, well, for those of you that don't know Leslie, Leslie is one of the folks that makes things, one of the many folks that makes things happen here in Rowan County. She is our Director of Finance. She's also an Assistant County Manager. And, you know, I can just speak for myself when, and probably all the commissioners would agree, the folks that we work the most with are the county attorney, the county manager, and the finance director. And we give direction to all of them that might be in different areas. But one thing that those directions all have in common is just keep us all out of jail. And that's a directive that we had for Leslie. Please take care of the finances of the community, make sure that we're doing the right things. And she has certainly done that. I want to say this at the outset. One of the greatest assets that a commissioner can have, and directors like this, is that we have full confidence and trust in their character, and that they will take care of their department and their responsibilities in an honest and an upright fashion. And these folks are people of character. And so, Leslie, before we go any further, I want to say, just on my behalf and others, I'm sure I want to speak, that we appreciate who you are. We appreciate what you are and what you've done for this community. And we have trusted you, and you have never let us down in that regard. And you've been a class act, and thank you for being patient with those of us who had experience and those of us who did not. You are a very kind person. And so thank you for your patience and for treating us all with respect. And so we appreciate that very much. Would like to give you some highlights of Leslie's career. She began with the county as finance director on September 29th, 1997, and then was promoted to assistant county manager / finance director effective September 16th, 2013. When she retires on September 30th, she will have worked with the county for 23 years and a day. She served as interim county manager 3 times during the last 15 years. And she's primarily responsible for finance, human resources, risk management, and ambulance billing and collections. She's managed general fund budgets ranging from $74 million in 1998 to $169 million in fiscal year 2020. She's closed debt issuances totaling $284 million, which in part financed 4 elementary schools, a middle school, a high school, a central office, a new library, park habitat renovations, consolidation of DSS into one building, a new satellite jail, a new 911 facility, communications, infrastructure, radios, improvements at the community college, the purchase of West End Plaza, and an airport hangar. No wonder you're retiring. You must be tired. She's guided implementation of 2 major finance computer upgrades. And during her tenure, the county received 3 rating upgrades from single A to single A plus to double A to double AA plus, which indicates the improved financial condition of the county. And I hope folks understand how important that is and how impressive that is, because every time our bond rating goes up, we pay less in interest on projects that we fund. The county received a certificate of achievement of excellence in financial reporting for 15 consecutive years. And so that's a remarkable record and a remarkable legacy. And so we honor you today with a new car. Okay, not really.
I'll take it.
This is presented to Leslie. This is going to Leslie in recognition and gratitude for 23 years of leadership and dedicated service to the employees and citizens of Rowan County while serving as finance director since September 29th, 1997, and as assistant county manager / finance director from September 16th, 2013 to September 30th, 2020 from the Rowan County Board of Commissioners, and 141,000 grateful citizens, this the 21st day of September 2020. So with that, we honor you, and I'd like to open up the floor to commissioners if they have anything they'd like to say to Leslie.
Leslie, I'd just like to say, as someone who recently retired, do yourself a favor and don't go back up there once you walk out that door. I know that you did a tremendous job for the county. It's in a great place thanks to your dedication and your expertise and intelligence. And go do something that's fun. Quit worrying about crunching these numbers for us. But you will be missed. I'm sure James will do a great job, but he won't do the job that you've done. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. I'm not going to say a lot here because we've already talked and we have a lunch date for several weeks from now. But like Craig, I just want to thank you so much for all you've done for the people of this county and done it with such intellect and understanding of things that I still don't get. So I'm going to miss that part coming to you and saying, now what? So, yeah. Don't come back up here, just like Craig said. So, yeah, you'll get snared. And remember, sleep in the first day of retirement.
Is anybody here from HR? I don't think 23 years is enough. I think she's supposed to have 27 years. I think somebody made a mistake. Leslie, you and I have talked, and I appreciate you not saying anything about me crying when I heard about you leaving. But you've done an absolutely wonderful job for us. And this is the first time in 7 years, I guess it is, something like that, that the chairman probably didn't say enough. But we're sure going to miss you. And you've just been a wonderful asset. And we have the privilege of bragging about the wonderful bond rating that we have when the rest of us had very little to do with it. And we really respect the job that you've done. And anybody that can get to retirement should. It's a wonderful time in your life, and enjoy it.
Thank you.
Leslie, thanks for all your hard work. I appreciate all that you've done for the county, all that you've done for me personally. It seems to be a little more complicated once you get elected up here than it seems when you're running. And appreciate with the patience, trying to figure out how to go through the budgets and those sort of things. And you've worked very hard, and appreciate all you've done. You've earned a good time off now. And so hopefully, you'll take a few weeks, but I will encourage you to come back to the meetings. And so we'll have some people in the audience, and you can, it's your chance to get 3 minutes and talk about all the dumb things that we do, but appreciate you. And thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Leslie, if you're alumni, we throw in an extra minute. So what about Aaron, anything from you?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you very much, Leslie, for all you've done. Leslie's one of the most brilliant people I've had the honor of working with. She does a tremendous job. She's been instrumental in the strong financial security that Rowan County has. She's honest, thoughtful, and always gives very good advice, and you've helped me immensely throughout my time here, and I'll miss you very much. And thank you. And thank you.
All right, well, looks like you're just downstairs. We'll run this down to you, okay, Leslie?
Okay, all right.
All right, anything from you?
Yeah, just a few things. One is when I think back over my years here, I realized that I've worked for 19 different county commissioners. And so top of the list of my thoughts is I survived that. So, but I do appreciate all your leadership and support for me over the years. It has meant a great deal to me, and thank you so much. I've worked for 4 county managers, and as as finance director, and then more closely as assistant county manager / finance director. And I've learned from them and laughed a lot with them. And at times with each of them, I have had very lively debates on how to present something or the direction we should go. But again, I appreciate their support and their guidance. I've had tremendous staff in finance and HR, and they're some of the best people I've ever met, and I feel really privileged to have had the chance to work with them, and also with the departments and the department personnel. I mean, we touch in finance and HR, we touch every department. So I do appreciate everyone's hard work. I do think that the employees and officials of Rowan County and myself, we've all tried to make a positive difference in the lives of the citizens of Rowan County. I'm proud of the employees that I've worked with, and I could not have had any success at the county without their hard work. And lastly, I'll just say that I am so grateful and feel privileged to have been a part of Rowan County government for 23 years. Thanks to everyone. That's it.
Thank you, and please don't be a stranger.
Okay.
We actually like you too, so.
Good to know.
Yeah, it's good to know. Let me step back 1 second, and I usually blow something in every meeting, and I don't know if Donna is still on here. I didn't think about asking for other comments until we had moved on, but could I ask Judy? Judy, since you're our liaison to the Board of Health, maybe you could share some thoughts about Donna and her career and moving on.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, Donna. Oh, wow. When you only have 5 board members in social services, there's a lot of responsibility, but it also gives you the opportunity to work closely with the director. And I cannot think of any other DSS director in this state that will be able to take Donna's place or even halfway fill her shoes. Most people have no idea how hard she works. And I'm thrilled for you to be able to go on and spread your wings even more. And you better give us some names of some really good people. That's all I can say. But no, you've been a joy to work with, and whenever you've been so available, and I so appreciate that. And I know I've had questions and questions and questions. So it's been great to work with you, and we have an interesting board, and hopefully we will be able to find someone that's at least a portion as good as you.
Donna, my apologies. I didn't think about kind of going this direction until I'd moved on. So I really blew this. So please accept my apologies. Are there any other commissioners that would like to wish Donna some well wishes?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say, Donna, you know you're doing a good job when you never see me. And I can say in the 8 years that I've been on the board, I don't think I've been to your office one time. So that ought to be a compliment to you, far above anything else I could say.
Thanks, sir.
That'll make the paper.
I don't know, I can't remember if I was at your office one time and you were working, but the times that I have had questions about DSS and how those things work, you and your staff have been extremely responsive, and we just appreciate so much the terribly hard job that the DSS is and directing them. And we know that you've done a great job, and the things that you have seen and the things you've had to be a part of is just very hard for individuals that you work with and for you, and things that you have to endure also. So we really appreciate the job that you've done.
Thank you, Jim.
Donna, just want to wish you well. Conversations I've had with your board members in the past have always been very positive, and they thought a lot of you. And I know you haven't caused problems for us, so we appreciate that. And I just want to thank you for all you've done. And I know from my personal job how hard DSS works, and some of the things you guys deal with, and a lot of it is a thankless job, and you're at the top of that, and you have to be able to motivate your troops over there, and you've done a great job, and appreciate you, and good luck in your move.
All right, Donna, anything from you?
No, I'm overwhelmed. Rowan has been very neighborly, and they've embraced me, and I'm taking you with me.
Well, would you actually take us with you?
Come on down.
All right. Well, thanks again. And again, my apologies. Okay.
No worries.
All right. All right, commissioners. We'll move on to some other things now. All right, it's time for public comment period. April, do we have anyone lined up for public comment?
No, sir, we didn't have anyone express interest in participating when we made the call.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to item number 4, a request from Lauren Miller. And bringing that to us today will be Shane Stewart. Shane, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Of course, that's a bit of a tough act to follow up there, but hopefully with this request being somewhat simple, we can get through that. But Miss Lauren Miller, along with her great uncle, Frank Gene Nance, are requesting a family subdivision waiver from the subdivision ordinance standards. You take a look at the screen here on the top. This is the subject parcel 360-027. It's a 35.5 acre tract. And you see that it has quite a bit of frontage, almost 800 feet to be exact. But just real quick, in the basics of the subdivision ordinance, any new lot created in the county has to have public road frontage, direct access with fee simple ownership to a specific lot. The one exception being if a parcel is divided for conveyance between immediate family members. And there's a couple different provisions that were added in 2016, more specific, that direct a waiver process that if one wanted to convey to family that may not be immediate, but be they aunt, uncle, cousins, and nieces and nephews, that it could qualify as such, along with one other provision. But in this request here, Ms. Miller would have a easement that connects to this blue lot here that's about an acre. But a couple things going on with it that really she could have complied with a minor subdivision provision. There's plenty of frontage, but you have this Duke Energy right of way, and they have a couple areas that are farmed, area in the front and also the back. And based on that, they thought the waiver provision may be better. Again, this would be something that's not a variance through the Board of Adjustment. And on average, the board may see two of these, or excuse me, one every other year. But there's some provisions in the staff report on page 2, go over some of the things that should be considered. In staff's review, this is one that we don't have any problems with. We think it's probably one of the reasons we have a waiver process for something such as this. Speaking with Miss Miller, her great uncle, which you do have in your packet, 2 letters that were delivered by the 2 parties that kind of express more of the background information and their relationship and family information. But it was indicated that Ms. Miller would receive this entire 35.5 acre piece upon the death of her great uncle. So again, this waiver will allow that to be created. It allows staff to work directly with the surveyor and the parties. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I believe Ms. Miller is on the call if the board has questions of her.
Ms. Miller, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think that covers everything.
Okay, any questions for Lauren from commissioners? All right, hearing none, we don't need a public hearing. We just need a motion to approve FSW 01-20. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Judy, second. Any further discussion? All right, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and thank you very much. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Lauren. All right, item, let's see, I did a 4A. Jim?
Yes.
Yeah, this is on that item that we added in. Do you want to talk about that?
Chris can talk about the details. I'll just go over the generalities. This has to do with a local farmer who will receive some money from the state of North Carolina for the sale of commercial rights of their property. And this will be added to their deed and will be a permanent fixture to the deed. The state has already approved this. It's my understanding the money that they offered him for this will be coming in, but all that they need for us to do, they're asking that Jay handle the paperwork for this so that it will be handled in a proper manner. And Chris is on the line with us, and he'll tell you the details if you want to know any more of the details about this.
You know what, commissioners, in the heat of the moment, again, that item that, Jim, when you asked about adding that item, that was item O that I was adding.
I wondered if that was one and the same, Chairman Ed, but I wasn't,
I'm
there wasn't
sorry.
enough verbiage there for me to make that determination.
Well, this came from Carolyn and I didn't see, yeah, now it's, Chris Sloop's name is on this. So, commissioners, that is the item O that I was, indicating we would add. So we've just moved that up to, 4A. So Chris, go ahead. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
Not much. I came to you back in April and asked for permission to file for these easements under the name of Rowan County, which was approved. We basically just need to designate a signatory authority, someone to sign all the paperwork. We have received state money, as Mr. Green said, and this portion of that is designating a signatory authority for the federal portion of those dollars.
Okay, and I
If I'd
believe,
known that we needed this officially, I would have asked for it back in April. Now, we're figuring some of this out as we go.
all right, and according to Aaron, basically what we're going to decide today is making County Attorney JD's, we'll declare him as the signatory. So is that all you need, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, any questions for Chris? If not, then I make a motion that in this issue that County Attorney JD's be declared the signatory.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All right, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. All right. Guys, have it, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Jim, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 5. Ed Muir. We're going to talk about extension of solar moratorium ordinance.
Hey, good evening. So at the last commission meeting, we had discussed extension of the solar moratorium, and you have a draft that's in your agenda material, and it looks somewhat similar to the previous versions that the board has seen. The only real difference is that there are probably 3 or 4 paragraphs in the preamble that sort of tell the tale of what we've all been experiencing here recently, over the last 5 or 6 months, really, with the COVID pandemic and how it's sort of wreaked havoc on just general daily life, especially as it relates to meetings and working with the public and things of that nature. So that's included there. The only other thing that I would bring to your attention is that there is not a specified duration. So that will be something that the board needs to consider, the length of the moratorium, because we would like to include that in the public hearing version of the text. So the other item I would bring to your attention is the moratorium is scheduled to end on October 6th, and we would schedule this particular public hearing for October 5th. So if you've got any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
All right, so then we need to, do we need to specify for you today? Because that'll go into the notice, right? The duration?
It will, yeah. We would like to.
Okay. So is that a motion that needs to be made, Jay, or is it just a general consensus of the board about the duration? Or do you know, Ed?
I would tend to think you could just make it as a general consensus, because the ordinance is going to be a public hearing, so a change can happen at that time anyway. So I think you can come up with a general consensus on what you want. We'll include it, and if something changes between now and then, you can amend it. But we just like to put something in there for structure.
Right. I'll speak first. I would recommend another 6 months. Does anyone have an issue with that?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Ed a question, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ed, have you had any inquiries about any new solar farms?
I wouldn't say that we've had a specific request, but I would categorize it as interest in where we are in our efforts to update our ordinance. I don't know where, but I think there are a couple of industry folks that have some properties that they're very interested in, and they may have worked with the home or the landowners about those sites, but we just don't know at this point where they are or what their size or the scope is. But yeah, they're interested in what our process is.
Okay, thank you.
They've made no applications to you.
Well, Commissioner Green, the way the moratorium has been structured, we're not allowed to accept any new applications. So they haven't submitted anything.
Any other questions for Ed?
Yeah, Ed, are there any solar farms that were approved that currently have not been constructed?
I think the answer to that is yes. And I believe there may be, I'm pretty sure there's 2 and there may be 3.
So how does the moratorium affect those guys, since there's applications were put in before the moratorium?
The 2 that I'm fairly certain haven't constructed are ones that their conditional use permit expired. So they couldn't come in and start. The other is one that I think they've done work but haven't had their interconnect, and that's the one on John Rainey Road. I think there's equipment on the ground, but I think they've had some difficulties trying to get their interconnect into the Duke substation, if I'm saying that correctly, but I don't think they're functioning at this point. But I would tend to be of the opinion that they have moved far enough along that if they needed that interconnection, that would be outside the scope of us anyway, so they probably could get up and running.
Okay. Thank you, Ed.
We have any that have been abandoned or not in operation?
That could very well be John Rainey Road. I'm just not familiar with what their status is at this point, but I don't think any of the others would be deemed to be abandoned.
Anyone else?
I'll second Mr. Ed's motion.
So the motion was to extend the moratorium for 6 months. We have a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, then all in favor say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? All right. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
All right, Matrix Consulting Group, item number 6. Is Randy or Aaron gonna head this one up?
Mr. Chairman, this is Aaron. I'll be glad to introduce Aaron. Aaron, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you, sir.
Good. Matrix Consulting Group is here tonight to present their findings. Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Sorry. Their findings that it's been several months since they completed their job. However, due to COVID-19, we were going to wait until they could be at a board meeting where we're all there in person. But since things have continued, we made the decision to go ahead and ask them to present tonight. They took a look at our inspections, planning and development, and several other of the departments involved in permitting, and they have a presentation for you tonight. And both Aaron and myself and Randy are available to ask questions. Some of the things we have implemented to a certain degree. However, at the end of the presentation, if the Board of Commissioners likes what they've seen and they want to vote to accept the recommendations, we'll move forward with everything presented.
All right. Thank you, Manager Church. I'm Aaron Baggerly with the Matrix Consulting Group. I was the project manager and lead analyst on this study, and I do have a presentation that I would like to share with the commissioners and to go through. And as Mr. Church stated, I am available to answer any questions. If you have them throughout, feel free to interrupt as well as we go through this short presentation.
Hey, can I make a real quick statement? So folks that are watching this, so they don't get to the end and wonder kind of what has happened. The commissioners decided months ago that they wanted to look at our development process from A to Z. So if someone's coming in to build a deck or a 1 million square foot manufacturing facility, we wanted to see how does that process happen. We wanted to look at every department that touches development and know that we are in deep competition with communities, certainly in our region, but communities across the country and even globally. So how we respond when a company says they're interested in doing business possibly in Rowan County, we've got to have the right kind of reputation. We are either a business hindrance or we are a business asset to those companies. And when they come here to look at our process, they want to make sure it's efficient, that it's predictable, that it's relatively easy. I don't know about inexpensive, but that mainly predictable, reliable, because companies are looking to really eliminate communities from their list. So if we're one of 5 or 6 communities that are up for a big manufacturing facility, these are things they check out. And so that's why this is so important to us, because out of the list of 10 things that a company looks for when they're looking to locate to a community, their development process is a top 5 issue. And so we have got to make sure that not only are we the best in the region, but we have got to be the best anywhere. And so we've hired these folks to look at our process, to make recommendations, and through the leadership of Aaron and Randy Kress, these folks are here now to present to us their findings and to make recommendations to us. And this is a good thing for Rowan County, and we're hoping that even municipalities will follow and taking a look at their part in this as well. So sorry, just wanted to kind of put the ball in the tee for you.
Well, thank you, sir. That's a very good way of looking at it, and you are correct. And we work across the country, and we see a lot of the complaints from developers as a timely review process, and that does impact if where a new business or an expansion is going to locate in a community or not. And I think Rowan County, based on our review and our understanding of the process, is poised very well to position themselves with a very predictable and a very efficient process, certainly to receive the development review application, permitting, and inspection process. So with that being said, let me share my screen and get this going. So as part of the project scope, as the chairman and the county manager said, the Matrix Consulting Group was hired to evaluate the development review, permitting, and inspection process for Rowan County. And the departments that are included in the development review process is building, environmental health, was environmental management, fire, and then the planning department. We were tasked with really 3 functions: to analyze current processes and identify any choke points or inefficiencies. Also, the staffing need related to the development review process, the technology needs for the various players within the county, and also the feasibility assessment of a consolidated permitting department versus the 5 departments that are currently tasked with development review. This slide just talks about our project methodologies. To really summarize these 6 points into a couple of sentences, we spent significant time on site interviewing staff, observing the process, observing operations to develop an understanding of what is happening. We interviewed several of your prior customers and frequent customers through a survey and phone call conversations. We developed a detailed profile of the current operations as a current state assessment. We compared Rowan County practices to industry and prevailing best practices related to development review and our own experience of working with various jurisdictions and counties from the East Coast to the West Coast and everywhere in between. And then we did several different types of analysis on the process, workload, staffing needs, et cetera. And we also finalized a report with the feasibility of consolidated development and permitting operation. I think several major key strengths of the organization and the current process came out of this study. And several of these can be noted, particularly the second bullet point here. The review time for building and planning applications is 7 days. 7 business days at most. That's the internal timeline. And based on the review of data, that is met 99% of the time. 7 days is very efficient related to development review applications. This is by far the quickest turnaround time that anybody in our company has seen, and we have assessed over 200 operations related to development review, permitting, and inspections. Also, the planning and building departments provide a wealth of information on their respective web pages. They're very detailed and outline the processes in great detail and provide fee information, etc. There's a lot of information online, which is great in today's times. That's where most people start to look before they even get an idea to submit an application. Also, the building inspectors complete between 12 and 18 inspections per day, which is higher than most counties that we see, especially with the large geographic area that they cover and the various geographic areas for the inspectors are assigned. And building and fire staff coordinate well on plan review and inspections. This is a strength because oftentimes when offices are separated and have very similar duties, that's not met, and they coordinate very well and still meet the 7-day turnaround timeline that the county has adopted. And an area that actually impacts the board staff reports to appointed and elected bodies are very robust and provide the pertinent details that you need in a concise manner and efficient manner. And as noted, there's strong collaboration between all 5 departments involved in the development review process, which is often unheard of when you have 5 different players in the field. We really broke down our recommendations into 3 different areas. I think one of the biggest challenges that the county has and has begun to address with the new FY21 budget is related to technology. As COVID showed, technology has made life a lot easier, such as remote meetings as this. And one of the key areas that would create a more efficient process, both internally and externally to your customers, is the need to update the current permitting software system and need to expand access and use to all development reviewers. Currently, planning and building are the power users of the InterGov system, which is a permitting system, and the other 2 departments have limited access to that or no access at all, or using their own independent database or software system. One of the areas that could improve external customer service is to implement electronic plan submittals for all applications. And this would reduce the use of paper. It would reduce the applicant having to physically come to county offices to submit an application. And as part of that system, it would be ideal to have the ability for applicants to track the status of their permit online, and then also to pay for any fees related to the application online as well. Also, currently, inspections for building department can be requested online, but it's not through the permitting system, and it requires staff to receive an email and then to input that inspection request into the permitting system. So it causes redundant work to occur for the applicant and staff to do that. And that is a timely endeavor for building department staff to do that and to schedule building inspections that might include outside departments such as the fire inspectors as well. And then one of the technology recommendations would be to establish a one-stop shop online, to have one web page that is dedicated to the development review and permitting process. And that can act as a digital one-stop shop with links to all the relevant information, regardless if it's building, planning, environmental health, fire, etc.
Is that done through the InterGov, or is that done through us developing a separate website?
Probably ideally, the easiest way would be to do that through your own county website. I'm not sure about the capabilities of the newest InterGov version, if they have that ability to do that online. I have had a couple of clients recently that has utilized the GIS system that the city deploys to create what they call a story map, which is an interactive online guide related to the development process. And it's interactive if you want to select the type of permit that you can click on that. So it can be done either through the web page, potentially through the permitting software system, or other platforms that the county may already have that they're utilizing internally.
I didn't see anything named for environmental services. Did you look about the possibility of them working in this same application process?
Yes, we did. One of the recommendations that was made in a report was to have all departments utilizing the same permitting system, regardless if you're getting a building permit or if you're getting a septic or well permit. They should be utilizing the same software solution, where if you type in an address of 114 Faith Road, you would be able to pull up everything related historically or ongoing for permits at that location. So if there is an active building permit out there and they applied for a new septic permit, then that information would be consolidated in one entry. Currently, planning and building are on the same software system. Environmental health and has their separate system, along with the fire marshal's office. They have their own permitting and inspection program as well. So there's 3 systems between 4 departments, and it's recommended to have a consolidated system that can utilize each of those, or have the ability for the primary permitting system to talk to the other 8 departments inspection system to integrate the database in there. Are there any other technology related questions at this time? I will say that Mr. Kress has been working on expanding and utilizing some resources related to the current system. I know he can speak to this if he would like, but he has put forth some efforts to improve the system and to utilize some of the software provider support in order to update the system to implement several of the recommendations that we have made as part of our report. And he has been working on that over the last few months since we have completed our study.
I have a question.
Okay.
And I don't know, Aaron, if this is maybe to you and Randy. I don't know if Randy's on the line or not, but environmental health is kind of a different animal because it's in the health department. And Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they are not on the same system. And what will it take to install the software that's needed and get people trained up to it?
Sure. I'll be happy to answer that, Ms. Glusman. As far as what Aaron has mentioned, we have actually started with the InterGov solution and looking at expansion. There are a few of the projects that are underway for the public facing side that affects the building inspection and permitting process. I've spoken with Adrian Pruitt in environmental health, and of course they've gone through and just recently had staffing improvements and are looking to expand out. So it's going to put them in good shape to be able to have some time to start evaluating alongside myself and InterGov for what that expansion looks like and see what capabilities. We know that we clearly want to have the on-site and well and septic portions within the InterGov platform, and we've seen that in other locations. On the food side, we'll have to work through that to see how that process is. The current system they have is one of the best in the state, or at least most widely used. So we'll be evaluating that. I'm happy that they're going to have staff that can actually take extra time as you're looking at a new software, because you end up having to work within your current solution while you're also investigating and building out new. So if there's any additional cost that'll be involved with that, we'll be bringing that forward and evaluating throughout this process, and have that most likely going into next fiscal year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Randy, along those lines in environmental health, I was with a field person not long ago, and everything's being jotted down on a clipboard. Do any of these improvements include any type of work pads out in the field?
Yes, if we take a look at how building inspections operates, and if we can work with the software provider to build out like systems, they're able to use iPads that are running routing software and also allow them to take notes directly on those iPads in the field. They would be able to get their day and what calls that they have, and then likewise they would be able to see cross departments what status each plan review, or in this case like an address, has for past notes, any comments or attachments or pictures. So it'll give a lot more visibility, and this would also be the same for fire inspections as well. I've talked with Deborah Horn on that, and they're excited to look into this. I know their inspection system that they have works, but we know that was pretty much a point in time solution that was specifically to address even having an electronic system going back to the time it was implemented. So we know now that InterGov's made additional modifications and have been working with others for fire inspections. So it looks very promising to be able to get everything into one solution for InterGov.
And that's really great. Last year I went into environmental health to fill out an application to have us a lot checked for PERC. And no slight toward these folks. They're just handed the system that they have. But I filled out a paper application and paid with a check and was given a paper receipt. Everything was paper. It was the craziest thing I'd seen. But anyway, that's really great news. So, all right, continue on.
All right, get back here. Process improvement recommendations. This is a little more the nuts and bolts about the very specific process that Rowan County has in order to get the various planning, building, fire permits that might be needed related to development. One of the first solutions that we recommended was to consolidate the building plan review and the permitting process. Currently in building, if you want a building permit, et cetera, for, we'll just say a simple drugstore on a local busy corner. It's a two-step process to get a building permit. You come in, submit your building plan set, they review it, approve the design, the elements of the design, and then you have to submit a second application that has 5 points on it in order to receive the building permit. Most jurisdictions have this consolidated into one process where you get your plan review, and upon approval, you have all the elements needed in order to receive the building permit. And we're recommending that here. And especially since your second step is only 4 or 5 items, that can easily be incorporated into it and reduce a trip either in person to the building department or reduce the workload associated with receiving the building permits.
That's great.
The second bullet point is really to encourage all staff to utilize the permitting software system to input comments. It varied across each division, and not all comments were incorporated into the permitting software record, an address record or parcel record. And so that creates some issues, particularly as staff turns over, or you call in and talk to somebody that's a permit technician, and they might not have all the relevant and most up-to-date notes related to that application or that permit. So if all comments are incorporated into the permitting system, you have a digital record that anybody can access who has that information internally. One of the areas that we really felt strongly about was to create and implement a special event application and permit. Special events were brought up in many conversations with staff, and they indicated that there was no official process related to special events. And this could be anything from having a little animal fair to fireworks, etc., where many jurisdictions actually have a special event application and permit and inspection related to that. And it's important to have a formalized process where now sometimes if, say, you want to have fireworks after a ball game or 4th of July or any other holiday, if you know that you need to apply for a fireworks permit and to get an inspection by the fire marshal's office, you will do that. If not, there is a requirement to do it, but it's not officially a requirement. And so a lot of times these events go without the approval needed to conduct those. And it's important for a safety standpoint and a welfare standpoint to do that. So to formalize the special event application and permit. The next point was related to developing a cost recovery goal associated with development review processes and operations. When you look at the current fee revenue generation for the various departments, the recovery of costs associated with that varies greatly. The building department does a very good job historically generating revenue and income related to development activity and covering a fair amount of their costs, sometimes in excess of their annual cost, while the planning department only recovers a very small portion of the fees associated with conducting their business. And the fire marshal's office has no permits and no fees, and therefore their cost is coming out of the general fund or other special purpose district money. And upon the development of a cost recovery goal by the council, that would require the county to update their fee schedule to support these cost recovery efforts. And so we made a recommendation that the county adopt where they want to go on that, and then to assess their fee structure to ensure that their fees are adequate to meet the cost recovery goals that have been set by the body. And then finally, related to technology and fees, one solution that many jurisdictions utilize to improve their technology is a technology fee added to development review and permitting fees to account for software and technology upgrades. Oftentimes, one of the comments we receive from prior customers is a desire to have an online submittal or to more digitalization throughout the process where they do not have to physically come and deliver plan sets and pick up permits at a desk. And oftentimes stakeholders will say, hey, we will support a technology fee if we don't have to print 6 plan sets for this new large commercial industry building that is coming at 1 million square feet. I mean, that is very costly to print those plan sets, and they'd be happy to pay a small portion of increase in fees in order to submit those digitally. And so we recommended a technology fee to help offset the county's costs associated with upgrading the permitting system and to provide those tablets for your inspectors out in the field for environmental health or fire inspectors, et cetera.
Is that a percentage-based fee?
Yes, typically it's a percentage-based fee of X percentage, 1 or 2% of the permit fee or the application review fee. That way it scales with the scope of the development. A larger scale project is going to need more technology resources for a larger scale development, pays a higher fee versus the homeowner who's looking at expanding their deck or something like that. Are there any other process related questions or comments? All right, we will transition to staffing recommendations. Probably one of the biggest staffing needs that we saw when we looked at the workload analysis is related to building inspections. There is a need for 2 additional building inspection positions. One of those is classified as a senior building inspector, which has more of the certifications needed to perform building inspections. In North Carolina, there's a 3-tier system, and typically a senior building inspector focuses primarily on commercial development and commercial inspections. The regulations related to commercial inspections is much greater than those related to single family residential, et cetera. And so currently there's only, at the time of the study, there was only 1 senior building inspector position that focuses on commercial development, and they had to cover the whole county. And as rapidly as Rowan County has grown, that is certainly a need to expand that to a second position in order to support the whole county and to split it into two areas, so the inspector is not running ragged throughout the county to perform that. And then there is a need to 1 additional building inspector to create another zone to make some of the bigger, higher intensity development areas a little smaller because the workload is so great in there. There is somewhat of an imbalance throughout the county related to inspections. Obviously, the I-85 corridor has more inspections than the area around Cleveland or northern or eastern part of Rowan County. In the building department also, as the EnerGov permitting software system is expanded, we made a recommendation to identify a position that can serve as a permitting software liaison to help facilitate the discussion between the county and the software provider, but also to serve as an internal support mechanism as more county staff are utilizing the permitting system and to provide support internally and externally to customers as they call and have questions to say, I can't get this function to work. How do I do that? In the planning department, one of the key recommendations is to reclassify the planning technician position to a long-range planner position. Much of the long-range planning effort is conducted by the director and assistant director who have many other tasks on their plates, and this is an area that could benefit staff, but also the county and citizens as a whole to, as long-range planning efforts continue to evolve and expand these duties, this could create an opportunity for career progression within the planning department, but also serve a critical need for the county moving forward, looking holistically at the long-term impacts and long-range planning projects that may come up in future years. The next one is related to environmental management. We made the recommendation to move the erosion control specialist from environmental management to planning, which occurred this past July with the new fiscal year budget, and that has already occurred. And also looking at expanding the duties of that position to provide more support to various areas. Over in the fire department, the fire marshal's office, their workload indicated that right now and in the future, 2 dedicated fire inspector positions are required to perform plan review and inspections. Currently, this is divided up between 2 fire inspectors that are full-time who also serve in other duties within that operation, and a couple of part-time positions. Based on the workload, there's a need for 2 full-time equivalent positions dedicated to development review. And then finally, in environmental health, the current allocation of 4 environmental health specialists position is recommended to stay. And I know you've had some efforts there recently related to funding of those positions and augmenting the way they're doing it. But in total, 4 positions are needed in environmental health. Are there any questions related to staffing for the development review and inspection process? All right. And the last task that we had was looking at a consolidated permitting and development department. And this is really one of the areas that we did a deep dive in and looked at this. And there's no right solution for every department and every operation. Currently, as stated earlier, Rowan County is very efficient in their permitting and inspection process. And that efficiency includes great collaboration between the 4 departments that are involved in that. Based on the current state and the process, it would cost actually more for the county to consolidate into 1 department. There would be increased costs associated with 1 organizational department. And so therefore the recommendation was made to remain currently as it is, with the recommendations previously presented and in the report, to have 4 departments that are involved in the development review process and maintain your current organizational structure, except as noted in our report. One area that may be beneficial to continue the high level of efficiency and collaboration is to potentially relocate environmental health and the fire inspection staff to share space that is adjacent to the building and planning departments on the 2nd floor of the 402 North Main building. That would have a consolidated one-stop shop location for all development related functions. That way, if somebody came in, hey, I've got this big idea, I want to put in an industrial park on I-85, they have one place that they can go to and they can meet with planning, building, environmental health, and the fire department all in one location without having to go to 2 different locations right now from 402 and where the fire marshal's office is away from downtown Salisbury. So with that, that is the key findings and strengths and opportunities for improvement in Rowan County. I will applaud current operations. They're very efficient, some of the most efficient that we have seen related to building permitting. Even when I was in local government, we had a 14-day turnaround process and people thought we were advanced. Well, Rowan County is beating that by 50%. And it's great to see these processes here in Rowan County. And as being a native North Carolinian and grew up in the close proximity of Rowan County, I do applaud you.
Hey, Aaron, back to that prior screen. Any conversation with fire inspection, environmental health about that consolidation?
You talking about the physical consolidation into one location?
Yeah.
Not at the time of the report. I believe environmental health they're on the 1st floor of that building. And so it would be a step up to the 2nd floor there. Obviously, 4 out of their 5 or 6 staff are primarily field staff. And so it would not impact them greatly. It may impact a couple of the manager or supervisor in that position and the administrative assistant, who both those positions were vacant when we finalized the study earlier this year.
Fire inspection, they're out on Old Concord Road?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I believe that's where they're at.
So what about them? Did any conversation from them? It's kind of pulling them out of the Fire Central. Any talk with them about that and their feelings on that?
We did not specifically have a conversation with them. Obviously, they saw the report and reviewed the report and did not provide feedback. So I'm not sure what their feelings are. the county manager, assistant
Okay.
county manager may have talked to this. I would say the biggest challenges with that right now is the fire inspections is a combination of several individuals who also have other duties related to the fire marshal's office and fire rescue and emergency management services within the county. And so that may not be as feasible at this point, at which time in the future there are dedicated staff to those functions that are primarily focusing on development review, plan review, and inspections that may be more feasible at that time in the future.
Okay. Any other questions for Aaron?
This is just a general question. As we see here, our folks do a good job with what they have, and we're not trying to try to make anybody work harder. We just want to give them better materials to work with. One of the questions I have is, how do other counties that have 1, 2, 3 municipalities that might have their own building and permits offices, do they consolidate under the county in any of those areas, or does everybody just act territorial about these things? Because it seems to me that it'd be much more efficient to expand well, we don't even know that we'd have to expand, but have one area, one in this particular idea, the county would know through, when somebody comes in with an application, they would know where the people are going to be located and what the requirements are of the municipality that they're trying to build in. And it seems to me that it'd be much more efficient to do it that way than to have a city building inspector and a county building inspector, this type of thing. How do other, since you go across the United States, what do you see in that type of area?
I see a little bit of everything. I see some that are fully consolidated planning and building departments where everything is done at the county level, and vice versa. I see where the county only is responsible for unincorporated areas where each municipality has their own planning and building departments. I think Rowan County has a hybrid of that, where obviously for the planning, the county provides planning and zoning related to the unincorporated areas, and maybe I don't recall off the top of my head what municipalities within the county they provide planning and zoning for, but the building department, on the other hand, provides a lot of the plan review and inspections for several of the smaller municipalities within Rowan County. And so you have a good hybrid approach where the zoning land use decisions are primarily made at the municipal level, where the building and plan review, which is a little more straightforward, is defined by the state and regulated by the state. So it's easier there's not as many uniqueness and nuances of the building code. And so it is easier to regulate and to conduct plan review and inspections at a county or even state level in some states as well. So there's not really a right answer to your questions, but we see every combination of your question across the U.S. Locally, we did complete a comparative assessment for several counties that are adjacent to or in close proximity and also similar size counties as Rowan County, and it's included in our report related to that. And it's across the board, whether they have a consolidated operation internally at the county level and who that includes. It's all over the board. We did not specifically look at the level of municipal and county involvement and weigh that as part of our comparative assessments. We're looking more at that consolidated, centralized permitting department, a one-stop shop, have you. So hopefully I answered your question.
Yes, and I have absolutely nothing to say about the inspections for the city of Salisbury.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering from a cost standpoint if it would not be more efficient to do that type of thing. Because I know that, you know, we don't have anything to say about that, and they would never give it to us probably. But I just wonder from an efficiency standpoint if it's being done.
Mhm. I mean, obviously, there could, yes, we see that frequently where the county would serve as the inspector for all building inspections throughout the county. I'm not sure. I think maybe Catawba County has a consolidated building department, and they might do the inspections for the city of Hickory. I'm not sure. That might have changed since I was an intern there 20 years ago. But there are some instances that we've seen even locally where it is consolidated for the whole county related to building inspections. But it's really the flavor of the month of what the local jurisdictions wants to do. And if they want that control, or if they are willing to let go of that and give it to the county or a neighboring jurisdiction. I have one client right now, is a city, and they perform the building inspections and plan review for their city, but also the city that is immediately adjacent to them because they're much smaller.
Jim, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up. To Aaron, my question is, in those instances where municipalities have turned their process over to the county, how is that funded? Just through the fees that county collects for folks that they're working for, or does the municipality pay the county and some agreed amount? How does that work?
Either one of those. I think it's often dependent on the financial situation of the county, but also the municipality who is, in quote, contracting with the county to perform those services. I think it's really what the city and the county would work out to. In jurisdictions where they have adopted cost recovery goals, and a lot of jurisdictions, particularly the farther west you go, and even Florida, have a cost recovery goal of 100%. And so that doesn't necessarily, if you're a county and you're performing the plan review and inspections for a municipality, it doesn't impact you because your fee structure is such that wherever the construction is occurring, the cost recovery is 100%. So there's no impact to the local budget. But I think in your situation, it would be what city council and the county commissioners could collaborate on. Obviously, if the county is going to provide that service, you want to be fair to each municipality and have the same cost recovery goal or the same charge related to that. You obviously don't want to supplement one community greater than the others, and that creates an imbalance for your staff that might have to focus on one thing or the other. I think if you were to take on greater responsibility at the county, obviously you want to do that to where it's not a negative impact to your staff and your budgetary process.
I have a question. Ed Muir, I see that you're still on here. Is the county currently servicing municipalities? I know that in the past, some of our municipalities have not taken that on internally. They've hired third-party groups to do at least their planning and development side, maybe not inspections, but Ed, could you tell us, how many municipalities, if any, are we servicing now through the county departments?
Currently, we do not administer planning services to any of the municipalities except for oversight on the flood damage prevention program. And we do that for all except Kannapolis and Salisbury. There was a number of years where we provided, I think, a number of hours a week to the town of China Grove, probably for 6 or 7, maybe even 8 years. And we found that as the economy began to pick up and things were more planning related in the town of China Grove, that our contract went up every year to the point where we told their manager that they were getting a bargain. We were basically giving them 35 hours a week of planning services, and we're supplementing their program, and they were paying us less than what the total cost was. And so we had a pretty frank discussion about it and told them that at the next budget year that we were going to withdraw from them. And so they turned around, they hired the person that we had that was working with them, and he's still there. And it was a good situation. I think it was a growth opportunity for him, but it's depending on the time and depending on the involvement, it can be pretty involved. So to answer your question, we're not doing it right now, but we've had good experience with it. I think Aaron is right that the fee structure would mean a whole lot in terms of what you would do and how you're able to recapture those monies.
Well, this is a really technical subject that we're talking about, and from my standpoint, I'm not qualified. That's the limitation of elected officials who don't work in these departments. So it's easy for us, to say, why don't we do this? But I wonder, and I'm not necessarily asking for an answer on this because I don't want it to go in the paper tomorrow that we're trying to take over the world. But I just wonder if a conversation with municipalities about this issue, at least asking them in some fashion, whether it's through a Zoom meeting, here's what we're doing. Would any of you be interested? May be in order, and it's one of those things where at least we've asked, and then we get our answer. So maybe we can talk about that offline, Ed and Aaron Church and commissioners and Randy. We can talk about that. What else do we have for Matrix?
That's all that I had from our perspective. I will say it looks like I went and reviewed our document. It looks like the county provides building inspection and permitting services for all municipalities except the inside Kannapolis city limits in Rowan County.
We do Salisbury as well.
Based on what we included in a report, that appears to be correct. And I just checked the Salisbury city website, and it did not appear that they provide building inspection services.
Okay.
This is Aaron Church. There is, for the city of Salisbury, we provide building inspections. But one thing they provide is the fire inspection, which is a part of the building inspection. So the city of Salisbury has their own fire inspectors. But other than that, we provide all the building inspections. We just don't provide any of the planning services to the city of Salisbury.
A couple of things I wrote down. Aaron from Matrix, I appreciate you recognizing our permitting and inspections department, and I would just like to give a shout out to those men and women in our permitting and inspections headed by Thomas O'Kelly. I tell you, years ago, Thomas really grabbed that by the horns, and that 7 days we've heard over and over from developers is quite remarkable. And so I want the county to know what a great job of leadership that Thomas is doing. Also, Aaron Church worked with Thomas on that. So that is a real bright spot, a source of improvement that has happened. Where we go from here, Aaron and I didn't discuss this today, but there's basically 3 areas of improvement we're looking at. matrix, will you put those, let's see, we've got process and procedure, staffing, and any kind of consolidated scenario. So I really don't expect us, we need to take some action on this, but perhaps the action could be that that Aaron work with Randy and whoever else, Ed, these folks, whoever he deems necessary. And Aaron, I'm just thinking out loud, but to come back to us with some type of plan for implementation on this, and perhaps recommend to us short-term, medium-term, and long-range goals, kind of define long range for us, kind of tell us how we can immediately start. And let me say this, that this has already begun. Randy Kress, who is our information technology director, one of the smartest guys I've ever met, was promoted to assistant county manager / IT, and he was promoted exactly for this reason, and that was to take on this process. So just want to throw it out on the floor there. Maybe Randy or Aaron could speak to this, but we do need to take some action on this. And so I'm open to ideas from you all. So again, some of these things have already begun, as you've heard Randy speak, that we're already doing this and this and this. So maybe a presentation to the commissioners in the next month or so that would lay out for us things that have already been accomplished, our immediate goals from these three areas, some intermediate goals, and then define what intermediate means, and then what are our long range goals. Would that be something that is logical to do, Randy and or Aaron?
Yes, that would be great. We can put that together.
That's funny.
I'll be happy to, Aaron.
When I give my daughter, one of my daughters, something to do, she'd say, "Yeah, Dad, that would be great." So whenever I give her a job to do, that'd be great. So is that okay? Other commissioners, what are your thoughts on this?
Mr. Chairman, I think we need to have a longer time frame because this is an awful lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
And we're getting ready to have to hire a new finance director or move one up and have somebody take James's place. And same thing, I'm not so sure how involved we'll be with DSS, but with what all we got on our plate right now looking at, this is really going to come down to budget too, because we're looking at hiring a lot of people. I don't think we need to get in any hurry to do this. I think we need to take our time and see budgetarily what we will be able to do, not what we want to do. So I'm looking at, after the first of the year, get the information and maybe even have a work session on it, because this is a major undertaking. This is not just a, move a couple desks around and hire some people. This is going to require a lot of thought, especially if we're going to go to more electronic learning as far as equipping the environmental people with iPads and these kind of things. My opinion is we need to take it a little bit slow right now. This is just not a great time of year to be trying to put forth something this large. And like I said, until we see what kind of numbers we're going to have for the budget, we may not be able to implement a full program. It might just be something we do slowly over a period of 2 or 3 years. But we're going to do this. I want to do it right. I don't want to get out here and create an issue that we currently don't have, but simply because we're trying to put together a system so quickly. So that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Commissioner Pierce. That's why I was saying, asking Randy and Aaron, in the light of what you've said, and that you said well, let's look at those things that are short term, which would also include some things that have already been done, that Randy's already working on. And then what's the medium range goal, and how long are we talking about it? Is in the next year to 18 months? And then the biggest part of this is the staffing. And so what would their recommendation be to us, and how long do we think, we may not want to take all of those staff recommendations. This is coming from a consultant. So what do Aaron and Randy believe in that staffing area that is realistic for us, and what is the goal set forward? So I'd like us not to move ahead to implement all of this. I'd like the folks that are leading the county to take a look at it, to categorize these as short-term, medium, and long range, and kind of give us a plan of what we're looking at. I think we're actually talking about the same thing. I just kind of put it differently than you did. Is that okay with you?
Oh, sure. I'm just making a recommendation that we kind of not rush into this thing. Let's kind of
I agree.
get a steady pace at it and then see what we come up with.
Yeah, and we're working with departments and people as well. So we don't want to rush. I absolutely agree with you, and that's a good point. Would you support them moving ahead with just some type of three-tiered plan like that? It'll be up to us to determine, but at least we can kind of see what we're.
I'd like to do the old college when I was going to college, the flow chart, just to kind of see how everything works. But I don't think they have those anymore. But it helps us to visualize what we end up with at the end, if we can see each one of these departments, and break down what needs to be added to each department and how they work, integrally to make it come up with an end game that is really what we want this county to be about. So I just don't want to get in a hurry.
No.
I want to see us take our time. And like I said, once we see how the economy is going to be here, at the next budget, that'll kind of give us an idea of what we're capable of doing.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
Just from this perspective of social services, that will all be done by the DSS board. So I think ultimately, if there's a need for an increase in salary to get the person we need, then we would be coming back to the commissioners.
Okay. Thank you, Judy.
Mhm.
All right. I don't know, Aaron or Jay, do we need a motion, or can we just ask you guys to work on a county response to this consultant report? It's 74 pages. And so could we just ask y'all to work on that for us and bring it back? Is 30 days enough, or as Commissioner Pierce said, we're not in a rush to move all of these points this quickly, but we would like to get your sense of this plan and get it in our head. Is 30 days enough? 45 days? 60 days?
30 will be fine.
Okay. All right, then we'll just ask you to do that. Unless you need a motion from us, then we can just move on.
No, we don't need a motion. We can move on.
All right, thank you. Aaron from Matrix, we do appreciate you being part of this. This is something that has been talked about in this county for decades. And actually, it's encouraging to hear you talk about a lot of positive things that are going on here. And we knew that there were some wonderful successes happening. We had the great fortune of landing a Chewy job here, and the developer of the Chewy project and that facility told us that it's the best process he's ever been through, and they develop millions of square feet across the country. But we can always be better, and we appreciate the department heads and who they are and what they're doing for us. And we all just want to get better so that we can capitalize on opportunity that comes our way. So thank you for your time, Aaron, for the effort you put into this. And we hope to turn your efforts into something really positive for this community.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to work with Rowan County and the staff there. So best of luck, and we'll be in touch with county staff to help them implement it. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Don Bringle. I think I saw you on there, Don. Don, aren't you on there? This is item number 7, commercial subsurface wastewater treatment. This is about our septic system. As we all know, we're expanding our facility out there at Dan Nicholas, a beautiful expansion. Don has been working on this. It's way past its time. And so now we've got to address septic system out there. So Don, are you on?
Yes, sir, I am on.
All right.
Like to thank you, Commissioner Ebbs, and our other commissioners for allowing us to be here tonight. We did run into a problem with our waste treatment at Dan Nicholas, and working through Pete Bogle Architecture, he was able to employ a soil scientist and a soil engineer to develop our wastewater treatment plan. We had a bid opening today, and Pete, if you are on, we've got the bid document there. You may want to pull up and share with the commissioners to look at. We actually had 5 bids. One we had to disqualify because they did not put onto the proper paper as far as the bid application. But the bid that we have today, Pete, if you'd like to review that, we'll go forward.
Sure, I can. Do you have that document that we could pull that up?
We sent it to Carolyn. I don't know if she's got it on there or not.
It's what it comes down to. It's just the bid tab. If it is there, we can pull it up. If not, we can just talk about it. It's not a big deal. We were anticipating this septic system to cost somewhere between 40 and 50,000. It is a pumped system from the location of the facility down by the lake all the way up to the out beyond the tennis courts, between tennis courts and Bringle Ferry Road, which is where the drain field will be. We did have 5 bidders. The low bid that we could receive was $44,850. So we were right in the middle of where we were anticipating it being. We had others that were 56. There you go. Thank you. 56, 68, and then one at 91. I think they were, Myers was, I think, maybe doing us a favor and sending us a bid thinking we weren't going to have 3. But that's where we are. The septic that we were going to tie to realized late in the game, actually as construction started, that we weren't going to be able to tie to it. That was the existing systems that are there. And that's what started the need for us to quickly put together a design and then get that bid. So there you have it.
And Pete, just to qualify this is in regards to the new concession stand?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, this would be added cost to the project. If you remember, we had 2 add alternates, one for adding brick to the building and one for adding standing seam metal roof. Those were previously, you guys decided that yes, you wanted to keep those. I think that was a good keep. If budget was an issue, the 2 of those adds are right at the same total, somewhere in that $45,000 range.
Well, the only reason I wanted to clarify it is I've had a lot of people contact me wanting a septic system at the campgrounds. So I didn't want them thinking it
Oh.
was setting a system out there for the people at camp. I just wanted you to make sure everybody knows this is for the concession stand.
That's correct.
All right, any other questions for Pete? All right, if not, then do we have a motion to take the lowest bid of Barrett Environmental for $44,850?
So moved.
Craig motion and Jim second. Any other discussion? All right, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Don. We appreciate you.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, Pete, you're back up again. Presentation of bid tab for Common Solutions. This is for the COVID-19 Relief Fund.
Yep. Do we have that document to pull up? I can go over that with you.
Pete, was that emailed to Carolyn? If so, Carolyn, if you can forward that over to me, I can bring that up real quick.
Randy, it's on the agenda.
I've got the agenda pulled up, Randy, if you want me to show it. Is it the proposal?
It's actually, it should be, well, bid tabs and then contract if we wanted to go over that tonight.
Good.
Oh, there we go. All right, so we did this, the COVID Relief Fund project that we're working on for the county. We split that into two pieces. One was Common Solutions, one's Design Solutions. Common Solutions is something we could get out very quickly. It involves a lot of things that we know a lot of other counties in our state and elsewhere are going to be going after. All kinds of touch-free faucets and light switches and hand sanitizer stations, that kind of thing. Most of these are all purchase and install. None of the work in this half of the project requires any inspections, plan reviews through the inspections department, anything like that. We did receive 3 bids. One from LaFave's Construction, one from Salco, and one from Vertex. We were incredibly pleased with how close these 3 came together, not having a clue what all this work was going to involve. Salcoa Contracting was the low bid, $441,485. The total funds that we have that we're playing with between the Common Solutions and the Design Solutions was about 1.5 million. So we're not quite a third is what we have in this first contract. The thing to point out here, though, is speed is of essence in this, as all of this work has to be completed before December 30th. To be eligible to have the CRF funding refunded to the county. So Salcoa's contract we've already prepared and sent in to Aaron and staff for their review. And it's already signed by Salcoa, ready to go. They've told me that they will have their performance payment bond in hand, the original ready to deliver to you, Aaron, I guess, tomorrow is when they'll have it to me. So that's where we stand with this piece.
Pete, did we have a budget? I know this is part of the plan that the commissioners passed earlier. Was there a budgeted amount, and how did that compare to the bid amounts?
Yeah, so the overall budget for all the construction between Common Solutions and Design Solutions is 1.5 or 1.6. We did not break out between the two because we really didn't have any clue going in as we're building this airplane while we're flying it, how much would be involved in the early portion versus the other portion. We know that all of the work that's been identified and requested will not fit the 1.5. And so really what we're doing is getting this piece out, knowing that we can get this one done. We know now we've got 441,000 we can take out, and now start working toward what we have left with it, with the other pieces. And those should be coming to you, maybe not your next meeting, but hopefully by the next one.
And that's the construction piece, right?
Those are the construction pieces. A lot of those involve separation between public and private, or public and employees, with glass dividers, circulation paths. We had the county staff prioritize different buildings for us, 402 North Main, and the criminal justice system, or Justice Center. Those were the two highest priority ones. And so we're hitting those first and then moving around from there. The good thing about the common solutions is we're able to apply those to all 35 different departments or buildings around the county.
And does that construction have to be done by December 30th?
It's supposed to be done by December 30th as well. Yes, sir.
Are the commissioners going to have to be painting over Christmas week?
It may help.
Okay. Checking. All right. So what you need from us then is an approval to approve, accept the bid and approve the contract with Salcoa Contracting. Is that right?
That's it.
And Mr. Chairman, if you could just add to the motion to authorize the manager to sign the contract between Salcoa.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion then?
Can I just ask who Salcoa is, or where are they from?
Salcoa is a Salisbury company. They have been around for a good number of years. I think like 30 years, but I will say that I've only gotten to know them the last couple of years, because what they've done with most of what they've done has been food line work and other grocery store work, going in and doing renovations and installing things, which is exactly what we're doing with this common solution. So they're a great fit for the project, actually.
Who's the owner? Do you know?
Danny Powell. They're also the contractor who won the bid for the concession stand at Dan Nicholas Park.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's actually their first out of the ground new construction project. First one they've ever done in 30 years.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve the Salcoa Contracting bid and to empower the county manager to sign the contract. Do we have a motion? All right, Chris, motion. Jim, second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone that's opposed to that? All right, hearing none, the motion carries. Pete, thank you. It's good to see you, my friend. Now, has Leslie already retired, or is she going to do the finance report for us?
I'm ready to do my final finance report.
Would you like music for that?
That's okay.
Yeah, okay.
Leslie, if you don't mind, I'm sorry. I think we had 8A. I just want to verify I'd written that right for the CDBG.
Oh, that's correct.
Ew.
Yeah, that's what I thought we was on.
Randy.
Sorry, I just want to make sure.
Oh, you're right. Well, since we've got it up already, well, all right, let's do it in order.
Make Leslie hang on, that's right.
Yep. She already has.
Can we postpone that report until next month?
She already has her slippers on. All right, Aaron, item 8A, and I've got it around here. It is CDBG report, Aaron and Randy. That's why Randy wanted it. That's right. All right.
All right. Yeah. And Leslie, you're going to love me for this. It's not short.
Thanks, Randy.
All right. Yes, Aaron had asked me to bring together some information on the CDBG-CV funding opportunity. So I do want to present that, and I'll make note of what this second round funding means here as we go through. So I'll give you an introduction to the grant program, and I know Siobhan has emailed everyone a summary, and then I'll give a few options for the commissioners to explore going forward. Let me actually hide so I can see everything. Okay, so a quick overview. There is a new fund of a round of money that's coming through that would not have normally been available to Rowan County as a local government entity, but it's been expanded and started on September 1st as a first come, first served basis grant process. The total amount that North Carolina has is $28.5 million. And again, they opened this up September 1st. What this allows is per grant application, in this case, it would be Rowan County, up to $900,000 per request of all items that would be submitted. This does not have a match, so this is a direct funding opportunity. The other interesting thing about this particular program is the project is available and the funding is available for 30 months. So clearly, unlike our CRF fundings that is by December 30th of this year, this actually goes 30 months from the point of the award. There are a few different items, so I apologize for the slides. I've learned about these over the past few days, and we've actually had the privilege to speak with the program manager at the state as well regarding this. So the grant opportunity here is through the CDBG, and it's a specific subset for coronavirus related. And if we have applications or we want to pursue funding here, you do have to meet national objectives. The most important from this grouping here is the benefiting low and moderate income, which I'll refer to as LMI, and that's a big key with the CDBG as it relates to how this funding is being awarded from the state. So any items that are presented or any grant applications must benefit LMI areas. The objective, the project activities will already meet the urgent needs, so that's already taken care of. And we haven't heard much about the preventing or eliminating slums or blight as it relates to a direct response to COVID-19. So pretty much we're talking about the LMI or low to moderate income areas. And so what we're finding is that the services that could be made available or could be expanded from a grant perspective would either be direct benefits, so for services that are going to direct individuals, and that would be at 100% of those being in the low to moderate income, or it can be area-wide benefits for communities. And in speaking with Valerie at the state, that's based on census tracts, and I'll show you that as well. For how these services, if you're looking for grant opportunities, would meet those needs. So this is more the project areas of interest that have been prioritized by the state. So in order to be eligible to submit for the grant up to that 900,000, you must fall within these categories, or these are the project area priorities for public service. And so in these next two slides, I'll kind of give you a few examples. This is very specific to nonprofits or agencies that are already providing service or looking to provide services. So it is a different take on how the money can be used, especially from a county perspective, and who we might be applying on behalf of. So you have public service for substance payments, for prevention of evictions and utility disconnections. There's food distribution opportunities for those that would be, serving different areas that would be the low to moderate income areas or the individuals as direct assistance. and there's employment training. So just a few ideas from a public service perspective that was presented by the state to show areas that you could apply for and still provide service related to COVID-19 response. Public facilities, there is wording in here for enhancing internet access that supports increased connectivity for schools, jobs, and healthcare. And then also rehabilitation for buildings or repurposing buildings for patient treatment centers or anything related to that COVID-19 response. And then there's also another priority area for economic development, and that can be in the form of financial assistance to businesses of 100 or fewer, and also those that are supplying and manufacturing medical supplies as it relates to COVID-19, and also help small businesses impacted by COVID-19 to create and retain jobs. So again, items that could be looked at as service expansion or request for funding that may come from our nonprofits or community partners. And going a little bit further into this, I just want to clarify the grantees can provide a new service or an increased level of public service. And the primary item there is it must be tied back to preventing, responding to, or preparing for the COVID-19 pandemic. So I've listed some of these over again for public service and public facilities. But again, this would be, I know since talking about this and it's become available, there's been community response for, how would they go about, looking if they were interested in this funding, and it would need to come through the county as a whole. It was listed that there were 24 entitlement municipalities within North Carolina. Salisbury and Kannapolis have, out of the 500 plus municipalities in the state, Salisbury and Kannapolis had received money directly from HUD. What that means is that the LMI areas that are covered by Salisbury and Kannapolis are not in scope for funding request. That's part of this. When we spoke with the program manager, she did mention we could look at the wording, but if you were specifically, looking at a nonprofit that was looking to expand services or funding, and the Salisbury residents were the predominant or the intended recipient, there was already funding that was provided to Salisbury directly, and they've actually already gone through a grant process. They received $168,000 back in April, and I spoke with Candace this morning about that with the city of Salisbury, and she actually was the planner there, and she talked about their program and how they went through their process to award, and they did receive applications, and they did go through a review process to determine how to divvy up their money for this. And I think she said that there was one that it was not able to accept the award, so they do have some money left for the Salisbury side, and they would be working through that. Given that, I spoke with our Columbus and GIS this morning and asked him if he could show us, just for representation, the LMI census tract areas that are provided, just to show what are some areas that are 51% or more, and that's the requirement for the area wide. So if there was a nonprofit that was looking for funding and they wanted to have an application and they were servicing, the residents in this area, that would be considered an eligible area for LMI. And just in review, this data would be made available to all the applicants. It's actually a HUD website that allows you to look at it. We've just color coded some of the information to make it more readily available, which particular census tract. So what we see is you do have your East Spencer area and also China Grove municipalities that are in the 51%. And then of course, surrounding areas, you also have. So outside of the jurisdictions of Salisbury, there clearly are some areas of opportunity that would meet those 51% or higher. And then you also have some in the Enochville area. So there clearly are tracks that are outside the initial scope of both where Kannapolis would have had funding available to offer as grants, and also City of Salisbury.
Hey, Randy, on that
Yes.
page,
Yes, sir.
is there anything on there that would cross-reference with our rural internet project?
The only thing that I know just right off the bat that would cross-reference is this area here in the northwestern or the very top of Rowan County and over right above the Morgan Ridge area, the census tract here. So those would.
Aren't we already covering the one over on the western side with our current project?
Actually, the two projects are the way the project is going to be presented, and hopefully have that to you by next BOC meeting, will actually be for this area, and this area would also be covered under the current scope of work that we have. Now, what we may find is this has a 30-month implementation time, so there's always an opportunity there, but they would have to submit an application to be reviewed. And I'll propose a couple of options of how that could look.
The CDBG has a 30-month.
Yes, the CDBG CV program goes over a 30-month period. So that 900,000. Now, again, it is a first come, first serve. So we would want to have the applications in and be awarded for that. And then you would have 30 months to perform your expenditures or your program and service area. So yes, definitely a much longer time than the current, what we're seeing with CRF.
But aren't these, those were our most critical areas, weren't they, that was identified through the study?
Yes, that is correct. This is our, the Scotch Irish and Northwestern is a high priority. And again, that's being covered by the CRF funding. And so we've already got that in play or working through that process. And again, this just came out September 1st. So that's what we're seeing is multiple funding sources. This could also be for, the schools could look at this as well. If there's any area, especially if it's direct to the LMI income, you could actually do that directly to specific homes at that point and not just at the census tract, because that would be a direct service allocation.
But my guess would be down along that corridor heading south. That's probably a covered area already, isn't it?
This area here in the south corridor is covered by Windstream. There was note of service, but there was at least one provider, so it wasn't the initial high priority area. And then yes, as you get down, closer into the Kannapolis area, you're still around a high municipal area, which tends to have different providers. Right. Just to give, and I'm just putting this here so you can see if we were to accept and pass along applications on behalf of the county, what the responsibilities would be. This Rowan County are legally, financially, contractually, and programmatically responsible for the CDBG project if we place an application for anyone that would want to submit through the county if that were to be a process that the county would want to do. The county must maintain financial management and all the statement of issuances and certifications. And the county is the actual, or the local government would receive the grant agreement and have to process that. And I've got a recommendation that would be with the CDBG administrator service. So if awarded, and this was listed also in the packet in the guidance, if Rowan County were to submit, you must use an experienced CDBG administrator. And just to put that in and note, the county does not have that within CDBG experienced staff, but Rowan County has used the experienced consultant and is currently using that with the CDBG project. And That would be post award, and that would be a separate, RFP process to determine the best fit for that.
Can
You
that
can also use
Can that come out of grant funds, or do we have?
that that would be at 10% of the total cost, so that would not be an out-of-pocket expense.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And so they're defining as experienced as you at least have to have that, and that would be in the RFP process, that they have had to have administered at least one CDBG project. For the process to begin, there's 2 public hearings that are required. The first is at the onset of the program, and also for opening up applications. The second is after you've received applications, performed any internal options to determine which ones you would like to include in that grant application package to the state. And then after approval, that would be the submission to the state. So there's 2 public hearings that are required for this process. So now we get into some of the logistics of how to define a review process prior to the submission. So for the board, 2 options there are, one, the board reviews all of the applications that could be submitted and then makes a selection. The second, and this is what I've seen that's been done both in City of Salisbury, they've recently done that. Other cities, and since this is a federal program, in review, there's been CDBG review teams, and that typically, consists of county staff. And in this case, since there's potential opportunity for others, that could also be a makeup of a school member. You do have 2 municipalities, that are in the LMI areas that didn't receive initial grants. So you can make up a CDBG review team that would review those applications, score, and then of course the BOC would make that final decision. Another thing for the board to look at is, since it's an open eligibility for up to 900,000, is to set parameters and priorities on those applications. So there were the 3 priority areas. The county could allow applications from all 3 areas, or just focus on specific ones to narrow scope. You could also set minimum and maximum dollar thresholds. I did see that in some research. And that would be mainly for things like setting a minimum so that you just don't have an overwhelming number of very small dollar, applicants that you would have to review, and you could have a maximum dollar amount, since there is a total of 900,000 that the county could submit for, regardless of the total number of grant applications. And then another example, I'm sorry.
Randy, I'd just like to point out, and I stand to be corrected, but another option is the board could decide on a county project, so it doesn't necessarily have to be with a nonprofit. So, for example, if the county wanted to build a facility or remodel a facility, and it was related to the prevention and response to COVID-19, that's also a possibility. Just want to make sure that the board is clear that it doesn't necessarily have to be a nonprofit that the money goes to. The money can go straight to the county if that's what the commissioners, if we have a project and an application for that purpose.
Or a combination of the 2.
Correct.
Correct, yes. And that could also be schools as well, and also other municipalities. Now, in the case of municipalities, you could have a municipality be a direct grant application, since they would be a local government unit and they would fall within that range. They could actually submit their own directly to the state, but they would need to follow the same guidelines. And I do have a note here that, if you have nonprofits, and I've looked at a few of the applications, there's ways that you can have to understand and be able to score, but you could limit applications to nonprofits that are already receiving annual appropriations. They could have a number of years in business. there could be a few different items there to understand your applications. Again, that would be based on what the county would want to do to form that partnership to make the request to the state in the grant application.
Well, that's an interesting limit. Because I'm surprised Jim had said something already, but we're right back into the position of being civilly and financially liable for this. And while we've got a lot of good nonprofits, you know, we're funding some that we're already comfortable with, and we have a good track record with. I guess there is some risk of some coming in that we're just not familiar with, but yet we're putting ourselves civilly and financially on the hook for this, right?
Yes, you are. The county is the recipient of the application. So if you have a $10,000 grant award that you've received, and there also are, and it is part of the application to have performance ties and to do reporting on that, and that would go through that CDBG administrator, but of course they would be contacting that nonprofit, and yes, the county would be on the hook for that amount if, you know, that particular entity were to take 10,000 and get 15 months in. Of course, you have performance reports by then, but you may have some liability there. So there's also, you know, a requirement of having, you know, you could have a requirement on insurance and other items that would help ensure that you would be able to recover those costs should something happen. And so just to summarize, some of the next steps for the Board of Commissioners to review is, one, deciding on a path if Rowan County wishes to accept applications. And as Aaron mentioned, that could be our own application that we would like to submit, you know, for renovations from a county perspective as well, or services that we perform that we would like to expand on. And if yes, what we could look at is having a draft for an RFP for services. We would go ahead and look at that for the grant writing and review services. That's separate than the administrator, but that would help us navigate since there's no on-staff services, and that would be reimbursable through the program. We could use county dollars and look at that because that'd be part of planning services, and we could have that for the next BOC meeting. The others would be if the board would approve the application process and parameters at the next board meeting, and staff could adjust. So during that upcoming board meeting, we could present based off City of Salisbury, their applications. I think City of Fayetteville had an excellent application process as well. So I'm sure we could get down to those that would clearly allow those individuals or entities that would want to apply a good set of parameters to be able to review and score. And that's from providing financial information on their nonprofit. Again, if there's any other parameters that you would want to include. And then that could be the opening. And so propose the first of the 2 required public hearings. And so that could be as early as the October 5th BOC meeting, where you would announce that and approve, you know, the opening of those applications. With that, you could also design or define and approve the CDBG review team if you desire, if that's the wish of the board, or the board could, you know, review, and that could be utilized to score the applications received. And again, after that time frame and the application period, that would all be brought back to the board. So that's pretty much the process flow. You know, I know that's a lot of information in a short amount of time. That's the reason I have the slides. I can go back and forth as needed. But it is a new funding opportunity that gives the county the opportunity of a $900,000 grant that's specific to whether it's county use or nonprofit or community partners, but the county would be the local government entity submitting the grant application. So it's important to know the legal and financial obligations as well as the procedural processes that we would need to follow for NC Commerce to be able to submit a grant application.
Randy, when we're talking about broadband,
Yes.
you said we've got Morgan Ridge and Scotch Irish that we're working on. Are there any other areas that we need to take into consideration, like Mount Ulla or, you know, any other smaller community out in a rural area?
There is, but those, I think it would be very difficult to word a program specific to this area unless it was a direct recipient. I think in looking at this, there's several different competing grants and funding opportunities that's coming through. I know from a school perspective, money has flowed through Department of Public Instruction to allow the schools to provide hotspots for those that may not have normal broadband but can reach it from a cellular perspective. Since there are no census tracts that are readily available, I would say it'd be hard to do an area-wide broadband expansion here, but this could be where there could be discussion with the school system to see if there's anything that they could look at for a direct access. And it could also be, you know, there's a possibility you could say that if you are low to moderate income, again, it would need to be a provider that would want to, you know, submit an application and take on that task of performing that broadband expansion. It wouldn't be a county service.
Okay. Thanks.
You're very welcome.
I've got a question for Jay. If we do provide money to, let's say, nonprofits, and we are responsible for that money, can we create a contract that would require and hold responsible officers and boards of directors of these nonprofits for the way this money is used?
We can. It's those are, you know, only as good as the financial strength of the organization that you're dealing with. But certainly you can, you know, request that. I think the goal is probably for the process to kind of protect you from that liability by having your grant administrator in place, you know, and having good proper oversight that you would reduce that risk on the front end.
But some of this money goes out 30 months. You know, that's a long period of time for somebody to watch over that money.
And I will make note that the 10% that's covered by the grant, that's 10% of the total grant award. So if we had 10 applicants, you know, that only used $200,000, you know, there would only be $20,000 for services that could be used. And to your point, I'm not sure how $20,000 would go for a 30-month of oversight for performance reviews as well.
I'd like to just throw out there for consideration, I guess, after seeing the map, the LMI map, I didn't realize that there's a portion of Enidville there. If the board remembers, the sheriff's office was donated a tract of land down there that used to have a bank. Actually, the bank's still there, but it's no longer a functioning bank. I wouldn't mind us at least exploring the opportunity of using a little bit of this funds for rehabbing that property for the an area for the community paramedics to use, I guess, as a base station or something to move in and out when they're doing their rounds. But I don't know. We'd have to discuss that with the sheriff, because I think he is open at one point for us to use that, because I don't know what his long-term plans are for that property, but I think it falls in that zone. And I think if we use it as county, then, you know, at least that portion would be under our control. We know where it's going. which I assume that would fall under this grant if it's for the community paramedic use.
That does sound like it would match all of the requirements. And I will say, since this is not a competitive grant process and it is, first come, first serve, the state office will work with us as we have different items. They'll let us know if we're on the right track. They were very helpful this past Friday. We were discussing a couple different options to see how that would work, and they're trying to figure out some things as they go, and we're looking for some answers to come back. But yes, it's very good from a traditional grant process that you would have to have basically everything lined up. You submit, and then they award you if everything's lined up and you meet certain criteria. In this particular case, they will work with you on that. So yeah, the community paramedic program definitely would match the and I'll go back to this, prevention, responding to, or preparing to COVID-19. And that's really this piece here, along with impacting an area-wide benefit or direct benefits for the low to moderate income based on those census tracts, excluding City of Salisbury. That's really the main idea in a nutshell for this funding source.
Say that again, Randy. Why are you excluding the City of Salisbury?
Okay, let me get, I do apologize. There was a first round of funding that went to there were 24 entitlement municipalities. The City of Salisbury received directly, without the use of a grant process, they received directly from HUD $168,000. And it's the same program, CDBG-CV, but that was back in April. So their service or that area has already been covered, and that's ineligible or not in scope for this funding request of the second round funding.
Or nonprofits inside the city limits of Salisbury would not be eligible?
It's not if the nonprofit, it's based off of who you're serving. So if you had a nonprofit that resided in the City of Salisbury, but they were looking to expand or create new services that were funding areas outside, or LMI recipients that were outside of the Salisbury or Kannapolis area, they could do that. So you could take and just put it in perspective. There have been some nonprofits that have received funding from the first round in City of Salisbury. And when I spoke with Candace, she had mentioned that there are several nonprofits that would like to expand services, and they would be able to go through that same process and describe the other areas within the county or other non-City of Salisbury LMI recipients to expand services to, and they could look for funding for that. So it doesn't exclude you as if you're just based in Salisbury. It's based on who you're providing the service to.
Somebody like Smart Start, who is actually building a new building now, or has plans for one, and they're servicing children who come from different areas in the community, would be eligible, even though they are building in the city limits of Salisbury.
I think that particular request matches very similar to what Aaron and I had spoken with the program manager, and we're waiting on an answer back on that. And that's where you're expanding services in an area, but you're looking to provide services to LMI that's outside of the Salisbury zone. So she's going to get us some answers on that, and we'll be able to get a little bit more clarification. I think that came across almost like a trick question for her, and so they're looking to see. So yeah. So apologize, I can't give you a better answer for that, but yeah, the program manager is looking to see in that particular case. I think these 24 entitlement municipalities definitely throw, a little bit of a trick in there, but they're going to, again, since it's not competitive, they're working through the process. So.
But just following up on what Jim brought up as far as Smart Start, even though their building is technically in the city limits, the children that they serve are all over the county and are primarily from low to moderate income. So would they, I know it's asking the same question that you're waiting for an answer to, but it just seems that they would fit that criteria, wouldn't they?
Is this, and it goes back to this particular question about the new building. It goes back to what the service they're providing with this. It's not just LMI, but since this is the -CV portion of the grant, are there services that they would be looking for preventing, responding to, or preparing for COVID-19? And so, yeah, that first, they have to have the LMI, and that's kind of where we need an answer back from the program manager to make sure, that one, there's also a duplication, or I was reading about a duplication of services. So we have to figure out from the program manager if they've already asked for funding directly from Salisbury through the CDBG CV first round funding. Are they able to go back and ask for that, and how does that look? And again, does the service that they're looking for the grant funding, or what they're specifically asking for money to cover, is it a service that's meeting this goal here, which is the working to prevent, respond, or prepare to COVID-19 activities? I want to make sure.
So the question before us tonight is yes or no. Do we want to pursue nonprofit opportunities, or no, we don't, or do we want to do a combination of there would be some government facilities possibly that would fall into this, and
yes,
nonprofit.
Yes, if you chose the option to just utilize it for county, you of course, I would still say that you would need the grant writing and review services just to make sure you have everything in line. You would be covering the application parameters from that, but you still would need the public hearings. And then if it was just county, the review team, of course, probably would just, in that case, be the board.
Well, if we agree to the nonprofit applications, do we need to set up a review team, or is that something the commissioners can do?
Right, and I put that as if desired. So the commissioners could review all of the applications, could go straight to the board, and then the board could actually review. There's a possibility that you wouldn't have $900,000 worth of grant applications. And you could look at it as, do you award all, or do you, if something doesn't fit, or if you have over 900,000, well, and I wouldn't say 900,000, you'd subtract the 10% to retain your CDBG administrator. But yes. And the review team would only be if desired. And then again, that could be done at the approval of that could be done at the next board meeting if you'd like.
So same thing. Go ahead, Mike.
So the funds that we would send to nonprofits, do those are one-time payments? They're not recurring. Like if we, give 100,000 to something, that's just from this one grant. It's not something that has to be recurring, and they could use it as long as it falls within those parameters. So, if it's salaries, they would use it one-time salaries, that sort of thing.
I would have to look at the details specifically for the nonprofits. There are some very specific exclusions of how it can be used. And Yeah, and I would actually defer to, if a nonprofit were applying, I would definitely say they would need to review that, the documentation and guidance from the state of what's eligible. I cannot remember in reviewing that.
But what, I mean, I support the Smart Start, so I don't mind helping them. But if just choosing them for example, since they came up, so whatever we were going to award them would have to be specifically related to COVID.
Right.
That is their actual grant app or their application, or the recommendation would be is that they would have to fill out an application. That application process would include all of the details of specifically how is your new or increased level of public service preventing, responding to, or preparing for COVID-19. Again, this would be a local review. And then of course, once if it was preceded and presented to the state as part of the grant application of the list of projects, it would also have to meet. So you're really getting a double check there to make sure that at the local level, you're passing along the correct things. And then even if it's not from the state's interpretation, just so you know, and I'll say this, if say there were 10 applications, we did find that if.
Randy, we lost you.
Yay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay. When did you lose me? I don't want to.
Was when you said, "Good evening, my name's Randy."
Then you've had some awesome questions for not to be able to hear any of that.
Yeah, well, we're intuitive. Just a couple sentences back. You said there would be double check system, both us.
It would be double checked, yeah, but it would need to be related to the prevention, response, and preparedness for COVID-19. So the state could actually exclude a particular project out of all the county's submissions. It would not exclude you from all. So just because you have one that may not meet the need or doesn't get approved by the state, it doesn't mean they would disallow all of the others.
Mr. Chairman, are we ready to vote on this?
I think we want to talk about it for 10 more minutes.
Well, that was an hour ago. Randy, you're going to be the assistant manager. You need to learn how to shorten up your presentations.
I appreciate that.
All right.
One of those parts right there said that you could just give it to food banks to provide food. So I don't see any reasons why we shouldn't apply for this money, because we know we can always go to the homeless shelter with money.
Just so you'll know, I'm meeting with Meals on Wheels and Rusty Homes tomorrow to talk about funding for these meals that they're providing. And I'm sitting here thinking about, well, right here's how we're going to pay for it for the next 30 months. So
yeah,
I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, me too.
As we look at this, before we vote, I would highly encourage us to choose the review team option. I don't think, or at least I don't want that whole process sitting in my lap. But that's just me. And I agree with you, Craig, about the meals.
Well, can we just say yes tonight without having to make a series of 30 other decisions?
Actually, yes, you would need to, because there would be items. Now, the only thing I think that you would want to do is set your public hearing for the next October 5th meeting. That would get your first public hearing that would be required.
Okay, Jay, do we need to vote yes? And then I know we need to vote to set a public hearing, but do we need to vote yes?
I would, and then set the public hearing.
Okay. All right, then, Judy, do we have a motion from you to say yes?
Yes, so moved.
All right. Who wants to be second on that?
Okay.
All right, Craig.
I had a question real quick.
Yes,
so
sir.
we're just, right now we're just voting on to apply for it, but we haven't decided what we're going to do with it.
That's right. It's just to set up the framework.
Mr. Chairman, this is Aaron. I have just one brief comment.
Yeah.
If you could add to one of the motions to also authorize us to do an RFP for the grant writing, because I believe that may be covered under the grant
Yes.
if we follow the CDBG guidelines in the RFP process.
All right, I'll make a motion to,
Well, let's do this one. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then the second motion would be that we put out an RFQ for a CDBG grant writer and to set our first public hearing for October 5th. Is that okay?
so moved.
All right.
Second.
Motion and Judy second. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Randy, thank you. Good work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Does anyone have anything else they'd like to add before Leslie's report, just to string her out a little longer?
I think she qualifies for another year on her retirement after this last one.
Randy's in my doghouse.
All right, Leslie,
Chairman, can we have a recess for about 15 minutes before Leslie starts?
yeah. Leslie, if
You
this
guys
is
are
gonna be your
merciless.
last report, I don't want the stock photo that came off of Google. How about giving us a live shot? Unless you're already in your pajamas. There you go.
No, I'm still sitting at my desk.
All right, I saw the Domino's guy deliver about an hour ago. Was that to your office?
Not to mine. After I give this report, I'm gonna go check out where the pizza went.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Leslie.
All right, this first graph that you have before you is the annual cumulative current year property tax comparisons. In the month of July, we received $3,593,000 in property tax, which is
just hit me kind of funny. That's how she's retiring. Look at 2018 and 2019. Now, where did $19 million go, Leslie?
I'll get to that in just a second.
I'm sure you will.
So that's 4% of budget. Last year, we were at 6% of budget. And the 2 years before that, 27 and 28% of budget. So the major reason the county has received less funds in July of this year and last is the implementation of the tax software. The tax department has been working really hard with the software provider, but due to software problems, tax bills this year and last were mailed out very late in July. So when you mail out your bills then, you're not receiving payments in the month of July, or very few payments in the month of July. We do feel like we are making progress with resolving all the issues related to the tax software. So we didn't anticipate that we'd have the same problem this year, but I'm sure that next year the same thing won't happen. And that's about all I have to say about this slide, except for the fact that we do know that tax collections in the month of August that we're booking will show the same trend as last year. So next slide, please. Okay, the second graph shows the cumulative sales tax comparisons. And through the month of May, the county had received $25,951,000. This is 97% of budget. And this, of course, is fiscal year 2020 budget. 97% of budget, and the 3 prior years through May, we received between 94 and 96% of budget. Then April, if you'll move to the next graph. So this shows monthly sales tax comparisons. For May 2020, we received $2,584,000. That's a $419,000 increase over prior year. That equates to a 19% increase. What's interesting is that we expected a drop off in sales tax receipts due to COVID-19 beginning in April. And as this chart shows, so far it has not materialized, which is excellent news for the county. So we're going to have a very good year for fiscal year 2020 for sales tax receipts.
Well, through 2 months.
Excuse me?
Well, I mean, we have so far.
Well, I will say that, yes. Yeah, I can't predict what the future is going to show. But
I think all of us on this call think that at some point we're going to see some type of downturn.
yes,
May not have been April and May because we had stimulus money coming in and that type of thing. But I mean, we all might be surprised that it didn't materialize, but I think all of us are collectively holding our breath, waiting to see what the rest of the year holds. So.
right. And it's not shown in this graph because by the time we have to submit the agenda packet, we don't have all the numbers for the month of June. But I do know at this time that June's collections do exceed prior year. So we can say that last year was a good year, but you're right. We don't know what fiscal year 2021 will bring. And we did budget significantly less in sales tax for fiscal year 2021 than we did for fiscal year 2020.
You're right. I miss, you said 2020, which would be fiscal year 2019, 2020.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So yeah, you're right. When you said it looks like we're going to have a good year, that what you meant was it looks like we're going to close out 2020 in strong fashion.
Yes, sir.
My bad. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. The next slide shows annual cumulative revenue comparisons. Revenues through August totaled $6,664,000, which is a $2.5 million decrease from prior year. We've already talked about the decrease in property taxes. The other major decrease is in park revenues, which is understandable because of the closure of park attractions due to COVID-19. So we are seeing decreases in other areas, certainly within the county's budget.
Any idea what that number is?
So for the months of July and August, the decrease is $357,000.
In park revenue?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah. And the last graph is the annual cumulative expenditure comparisons. Through August, we have spent $21,675,000. That's $19,000 more than we spent in August of last year. It's 14% of the current year budget. In the last 3 years, we had spent 13% of budget, 14% of budget, and 13% of budget. So we are operating as expected. I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
right.
I'm good.
Hearing none, it has been my pleasure. I'll just say that. I've enjoyed working with all of you very, very much.
All right. Well,
Thanks, Leslie.
all the best. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Don't forget the little people.
Go up there and get your plaque now.
I'm not going to forget my plaque.
Still want us to get HR on the phone. I don't think this is right.
Yeah. All right.
But believe me, I'm in finance. I know it's right.
All right.
Good.
Moving on, just quickly, our litter report, Rowan County staff removed 12,780 pounds of roadside debris during the two-week period of August 24th through September 4th. And the solid waste enforcement program resulted in 3 citations issued for illegal dumping during the month of August. So that's good, where they've caught up with some folks that been illegally dumping. So thank you, Caleb, for the good work y'all are doing. All right, we've got to move into closed session. So I move that the board now enter into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute.
Mr. Chairman, you said something about having a meeting discussion on 10A.
Oh, yeah, man, I need to look at my agenda. Yeah, my question to the group is, you know, when do we want to come back into the county commission chambers? I'm certainly ready to do that. We can do a configuration in there that would give us some separation. But just wanted to, instead of just continuing, before every meeting, our clerk to the board just wants to make sure we're still on Zoom. And so just wanted to get everyone's comfort level with moving back into the county commission chambers and doing these in person. We certainly are not, there's no executive order from the governor that's keeping us from doing that. So just something I thought was time to bring up. So wanted to bring that up before the board.
I'm good with whatever everybody else wants to do.
1st of October. I hate these Zoom meetings.
I'm ready. I'm ready to move back.
Well, sorry, guys, I won't be back until I get my vaccination.
Well, can us 4 meet and let Judy Zoom in?
I
know Randy has made that available.
Randy?
Yeah, all the rules for a Zoom meeting would apply. So all your extended public hearings and all of that would apply if you have one that's zooming in.
Judy, that's fine. I respect that. I'm sure we all do. Is that okay with you if we
Absolutely.
move back in and we'll put a big screen television in your chair?
Okay.
Face on it. We could do that.
That's fine. I appreciate that accommodation, and I also support what you want to do. It's too dangerous for me.
Yeah, that's okay. I get it. We want you healthy because you're a big part of the team. So we also want to accommodate you. So
Younger people understand the stress that you're under.
Yeah, sure. So commissioners, does that mean then that we could agree to come back in person at our next meeting? We'll just work with Carolyn to make sure we've got a setup in there that's acceptable.
I'm good with that.
All right, good. Thank you, Craig. Jim, you good with that? All right, Mike.
Absolutely.
Aaron and Jay.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And Carolyn?
Should, Mr. Chairman, should we mask up though, even though we're going to be meeting?
I think we should follow CDC guidelines, and that's 6 foot separation. If you can't separate by 6 feet, then wear a mask. I think those are the official rules, right? So, beyond that, kind of personal preference. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
Just want to be prepared when I get there.
Yes, sir. We've had a mask for you for a long time.
No, you've had a noose for me.
No.
You guys.
All right, we're gonna move on quickly before this devolves and, all right. So I move that the board now enter closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-1185 to consider real estate transaction. Commissioners, you should have an email from Randy with a info for closed session. There's a phone number.
Do you know when that email was sent?
Well, if you'll look at your September Zoom,
is it in there?
Came from Randy. At the bottom of it is the closed session phone number. So as a reminder, just leave your Zoom connected and then call in to the audio conference. Randy will handle closing it down here, and then we'll come back here right after we're done with our conference call. Craig's back. All right, there's no act, we have a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're back, and so no actionable items. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mike second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, stay well. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.